Welcome to Quick Hits from Rollout Marketing. Today, I have a very, very special guest, one of my favorite human beings in the whole world, one of the very few people that I would be willing to hang my hat next to, and that is my good friend and business partner, Tim Bergsma. Tim, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. It's nice of you to say that while you have a million hats hanging behind you, but appreciate it.
Whoa, and I actually don't have your hat that I could hang mine next to, so
That's true.
we'll get you a Tim Bergsma hat.
That's good.
So Tim is what I would consider, and many would consider, an expert when it comes to just business operations, systems, culture, relationships. And that's what we are going to be talking about today. So Tim, I want to start by you providing your thesis. If we're going to be talking about a visionary and integrator relationship, and I say a vision and integrator relationship is...
A visionary and integrator relationship is critical to business health, probably the most important relationship and dynamic to get right within an organization.
All right, that's a big statement. The most important relationship. Okay. So let's start by talking about your experience. So why should anyone listen to you on this topic? Why would I consider you an expert?
Yeah, so I've run the integrator role across a couple different companies and a couple different dynamics as well. Probably the first time I ran this role was as we were establishing a neuroscience brand called NeuroPeak Pro. I worked alongside a visionary whose name is Dr. Tim Royer to implement a lot of his ideas and systems when it came to brain performance training. We worked with NBA players, we worked with PGA golfers, Jordan Spieth, Bryson DeChambeau, you name it in sports, and we probably worked with them and implemented all kinds of cool stuff. Moved on into a consulting role with Root, which is part of Accenture, which is a 700,000 person company. We'd go into some of the biggest brands in the world, Kellogg, Lockheed Martin, all kinds of big companies, and help them by definition kind of implement what they were hoping to do, and then bringing that now to Ellison Painting. And we are doing pretty well for a paint company. We've grown to about 5 million this year, and hopefully take it to the next level in the upcoming year.
Where do these terms come from? Is this something that you came up through your consulting, or
I wish. So it comes from Geno Wickman, who's the author of Traction and then Rocket Fuel. Traction has the entrepreneurial operating system, which is how we run our business. I know the guys at Aleph run their business off it as well. And then he actually dives even deeper into the visionary and integrator relationship in Rocket Fuel, which is kind of the second book after Traction.
Can you define, at least loosely, these two terms of visionary and integrator for our listeners who may not be familiar?
Yeah, so you think of the visionary as the ideas person. So they are coming up with kind of this future state. What should our company look like? What does it need to look like? Kind of drawing that beautiful future state picture. And the integrator makes it happen. They try to get the people, the systems, the processes, all of that in place so that future becomes a reality.
So if I can translate, you're saying like the visionary is like the smart, creative one, and the integrator is like the grunt. Which one am I? In our relationship, which one am I?
Yeah, so in our relationship, you are the visionary, I am the integrator.
So I'm the smart, creative one? Everyone heard it, right?
You nailed it. Yeah, that's it. There's one really smart one, and the other one's just kind of carrying the piano the whole way. But no, and I actually think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions about that is I think a lot of people think I'm a visionary. I sit here with my feet up and I say, we should be a $50 million paint company. And the integrator just needs to figure out a way to make that happen. And if only they could make it happen, we'd be successful. I came up with this great idea. What's wrong with everyone else? Why aren't we a $50 million paint company? So I actually think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions about how those two roles play into each other.
You've told me a dinner party is like kind of metaphor or example.
Yeah.
What? Share that.
So I think if you think about kind of a dinner party, hosting Thanksgiving, whatever that is, the visionary would probably be like, hey, you know what we should do? We should host a party. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to have food and drinks and decorations and all of these things. And then it's really the integrator's role to then make that happen. They're the ones who are probably creating the invitations or having the invitations created. They're honing the guest list. They're probably purchasing the food. They're maybe even cooking and coming up with the games. but it's probably not quite as simple as that, because in reality, there's a lot of back and forth that needs to happen. I don't know if you've ever hosted something, but we host Thanksgiving, and my wife and I always talk with it. It's more than just one person has the idea and the other person does it. There's a lot of conversation. Hey, what should we eat? Well, hey, I was thinking turkey. Well, yeah, maybe we do that and add sweet potatoes to it. And there's like this whole back and forth that needs to happen. It's not just the visionary says this grand statement and lets it float out there, but really they are partnering with the integrator about how to bring that to life and how to shape that.
So you serve that role. So we both serve those respective roles in Ellison Painting, but also in Rollout Marketing. And that's been really helpful as we've launched Rollout. Is Rick came to me. Our other partner Rick came to me and said, "Hey, let's start a marketing agency for local companies." And I was like, don't want to do it. Sounds complicated. But if you want to start a marketing agency for painters, I have a lot of ideas." And we started brainstorming. I came up with all these ideas. Here's what it should look like. Here's who we should target. Here's how we're going to differentiate ourselves. And now, as we've launched, you're serving as that strategic catalyst. So on the front end, I'm serving as a visionary. On the back end, Rick and Paolo are our actual production guys. They're the nerds that know how to do all the actual marketing work. And you've been really excellent at connecting the two, translating back and forth and pushing that needle, right? And that's part of the role of an integrator too.
Yeah, and let's not sell Brian short either. Brian's probably done more of that work than I have, but definitely the role that I've played in Ellison Painting and understanding our dynamic has actually allowed me to help Brian in some ways to, hey, pick this up here. Hey, push back over there. Hey, he's probably expecting this out of you, and we need to make this happen in order to get this idea across, for now, the start line, but the finish line as well.
Yeah, brilliant. So no relationship is perfect. What are some of the toughest things or the toughest parts of managing a relationship between a visionary and integrator?
Yeah, I think the first is what we just talked about, which is if you have a visionary who just thinks that they're the idea, I'm an ideas guy, probably next to useless, to be honest with you, because especially in contracting paint companies, like there's not that many great, crazy ideas in paint, right? Most of it's already been done. And so if you have that person, it's just the division of labor isn't going to be where it needs to be. You need to have someone who's willing to at least get it started. If you've ever read Strengths Finders, kind of that activator trait is really important, I think, in the visionary, because they need to get it started, kick it off, get the like minimal viable product out there, and then the integrator can take it and make it better and, make it more sustainable and maybe more processed. I think it's also tough. You and I have a lot of miles. We've known each other for 20 years. And so one thing that we have is if you don't like how something's going, you have all the confidence in the world to come to me and say like, hey, this has got to be better. Or, hey, we need to get going on this, or, whatever that is, and vice versa.
Oh, for sure.
I think actually probably more often than not, the visionary is the CEO and the integrator is the COO or something like that. And so it can actually be hard for the integrator to push back on the visionary. But I think that's where you and I, having 20 years of life experience with each other, there are many times where you'll say something and I'll text you and I'll be like, hey, that didn't come off how you meant it to. So maybe follow up a second text there. And I think if you don't have that mutual respect and that confidence in one another, it's really hard. It's difficult to do.
Yeah, it means confidence. It also comes down to trust, at least for me. I trust you implicitly, and I think that's allowed our partnership to start and then grow in a really healthy, productive manner.
Yeah.
But so you say the visionary is generally the CEO, not always, but generally, and the integrator is the COO. One of the things that I think has been really helpful for us is that while I am drinking from this mug that I got myself from you that says "World's Best Boss," we really operate as partners. Yeah. It's not like I'm the boss and you're second in command. We really have operated like in equal capacities, right? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And which is actually probably even more unique, and I would give you props, which is it's Ellison Painting, right? And my name's nowhere on it, and you took it from zero to where it was when I joined. And so you've actually probably gone above and beyond to make sure that it's a partnership when, and our team, I think, it's starting to settle in, especially as we grow and bring on more people, where at first everyone's going to you for everything,
Mhm.
where now I've hopefully been able to take more of that burden away from you. And I think we're getting close to a point where probably 95% of the stuff I can handle on a day-to-day basis, which allows you to be an even more effective visionary.
So we've talked about trust, respect. Any other keys to a healthy visionary integrator relationship?
I think you need to be intentional about your communication as well. I think you need to kind of seek the discomfort, if you will,
Mhm.
and test just to make sure, hey, I'm not just becoming a yes man. I'm not just, going along with whatever's said. So I think there's times where carving out intentionally to talk and to both the positives and the negatives, to talk about, hey, this is what you're doing really well. I really appreciate this out of you. And hey, here's something I need a little bit more out of you, more
Mhm.
out of you. Um, I think that's just super healthy, and you actually have to seek that out. That's probably not just going to come in the run of play of day to day. You really have to set time aside for that.
So, in your consulting experience, have you seen companies manage this poorly? And if so, like how? What'd you see?
I think the biggest place where this can go sideways is when there's too much separation between visionary and integrator. So if you picture a Venn diagram, right? There should be a fair amount of overlap. And what that looks like, it might be a lot, it might be a little bit, but if it's none and there's a gap in there, that's where it starts to become an issue. When the visionary saying, hey, I have all these great ideas. I had this great idea for a $50 million paint company, yet we're a $500,000 paint company. The integrator's really screwing up. I need someone who can keep up with me. And the integrator is sitting there going like, this person has pie in the sky ideas, but they don't get it. Like they don't understand the fatigue that
Mhm.
my people are under. The salespeople, my project managers, they're sick of hearing these ideas because they're full with what's on their plate today. So when there's that gap there and that disconnect, wedges can be driven. It can become really difficult. It can become contentious even, and it can become adversarial where the integrator could look at somebody and say like, yeah, they don't really know. Like, I'll take care of you. They don't really know what they're talking about. And then meanwhile, the visionary's talking to their peers and saying like, yeah, this guy's just, he's not good enough. He's not making it happen. And that's where you run into issues. And that happens at massive companies, happens at small companies. It can happen really anywhere.
Yeah, and I'd imagine that a lot of the failure comes when expectations weren't set very clearly at the beginning. I'll tell you one of the things. I don't want to talk too much about our relationship, but that's the
Sure.
one I know the best.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember back to our conversation sitting in the office where we started to negotiate what the purchase was going to look like, and we naturally found ourselves arguing for the other person. Meaning, well, Tim, you got to think about this. In case this happens, you need to be protected in this way, and then you flip that around. And you say, well, if this happens, you and Rachel need to be protected in that way. And again, we have this 20 year long relationship. We had the opportunity to work together for a few years at the other marketing agency. So we had that background that maybe most partners maybe didn't have.
Yeah.
But that I think that set a really good precedent that we are and a realization for me at least that we are both looking out for each other's best interest. Um, and I've found in our business in general, if we're looking out for our customers' best interest, if we're looking out for a subcontractor's best interest, then our best interests are naturally going to happen, right?
Yeah, and I think you've set that tone from the beginning. Even before we started recording here, we were talking about, well, how much are we spending for our subs and for our team? And we're like, well, industry standard is X. We're probably X plus 5% or X plus 2%. And we're okay with that.
Mhm.
And I think your abundance mindset when you started this company has spread to, it's really in the DNA and it's in the fabric of our culture, which is, yeah, we're going to look out for each other and trust that we'll be looked out for. And no one's taken advantage of that yet. If they do, they'll probably not be with us for very long. And I think it has to be that way. And when you start putting up walls, it creates separation. And I think you did a really good job establishing a culture that was counter that. And I think that's only continuing to grow.
So, what are the benefits then of a well functioning visionary integrated relationship?
Yeah, the benefits are it's a flywheel. Things just keep getting better and better and better, and the one feeds the other. And I think, you're never complacent. And so the next idea, when that's realized, it's like, oh, this is really good, which
Right.
allows that next idea to happen, which allows that next like process to be a little bit better and a little bit greater. And I think that momentum can happen super positively, and you got to make sure it doesn't happen negatively, and you got to make sure that all of our people are ready for it, and they're good with the pace of it, because if that starts going too fast, it can overwhelm. And so how do we create these ideas that are implemented that continue to get, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, without outrunning the pace of our people? And
Mhm.
I think that's when it's done right, you just get this company that's moving forward at a really good pace and becomes a movement rather than, a museum. And it's not standing still. It's not resting on what was done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but it's fresh, and it might not even realize it's fresh because it's just getting a little bit better every single day.
The idea of partnerships is generally frowned upon, particularly in the painting industry. And so when I started sharing, "Oh yeah, I'm planning on, selling a portion of my company and bringing on a partner," they're like, "You're crazy. Why would you give up equity?" Uh, and I say, I know that I have a ceiling somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's probably higher than most, but I certainly have a ceiling. And rather than discover where the ceiling is, why not raise the ceiling right off the bat? So we got from 3 million to 5 million once you came on board this year. Could Ellison Painting have gotten to 5 million with me just at the helm?
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not. Maybe. If so, it would have been pretty darn painful. Instead, we just freaking put in the rocket fuel, got to 5 million, and then bonus, what that allowed us to do is think bigger and say, all right, where else can we expand? And now we started a whole separate company in the painting industry and Rollout Marketing that we certainly could not have done. I couldn't have done without a partner, and I certainly could not have done with someone that also functioned as a visionary. Two visionaries wouldn't have worked, two integrators wouldn't have worked. It only worked because you and I are both, each of those.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think you got to find that where it's 1+1 = 3. It can't be
mhm,
1+1 = 2. It can't be,
yeah,
hey, I'm just going to offload. Hey, if I could offload 40% of what I'm doing, then I'm going to
mhm,
be happy. It needs to be, no, I'm going to offload this, and it's going to get done better than it would have otherwise.
yeah. Now we maybe are in a privileged position because we were at a certain point, revenue wise, profitability wise, where I could comfortably bring someone on,
Yeah.
pay them well, and still continue to make what I need to make for me and my family, right?
Yeah.
Most painting companies right now are not there. So is it necessary for a contracting company to actually have a visionary and integrator in place?
I would say no. And I think most founders won't like hearing this, but I think most paint companies need their founder to be more of an integrator than a visionary.
Mhm.
I I remember going to the PCA conference last year, and I feel like I heard over and over, like, I'm just a visionary, I just need an integrator. And it's like, are you? Are you?
Right.
First of all, are you a visionary? Like, what are these ideas you're coming up with? And two, does your company need that? Probably not. If you didn't know anything, especially in paint, it's such a sharing industry and so much has been done before.
Mhm.
You could probably send 10 emails and have all the ideas you need to become a $3 to $5 million paint company. Get,
Mhm.
find a good marketing partner. There's plenty of them in this space. Um, Email us, Ellison Painting, and email Eric about virtual sales, and we will send you our playbooks and our SOPs. Talk to, again, us about our project management, and we
Right.
would send you our playbook. And like, if you could get all these ideas, and there's plenty of other people, right? Zach Kenny about marketing, Aleph about their marketing, and their, like, Aleph obviously does a lot really well. Um, if you were to send 10 emails to those people asking for some advice on marketing and sales and project management and how to run your business and financials, you'd probably get all the ideas you need to succeed. You just would need to go do them.
Mhm.
It, there's no shortage of how to do it. It's out there. PCA conference talks about it every year. It's just people either don't do it, don't have the ability to do it, or can't do it, and that's where they need to find people who can help them.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming up on the end of the show here. What I want this show to do is provide actionable takeaways for our listeners. So as we wrap up, can you share two things that a listener can do today to use this relationship to benefit their business?
Yes. So you mentioned a second ago how we're probably in a privileged place because we are a little bit bigger, right? And being bigger allows you to have multiple people. I think one thing is, how do you consider how you and your company can actually have visionary and integrator maybe on a smaller scale? So one thing that EOS talks about, and I would, if you don't run your business off something, I would suggest read Traction, read Rocket Fuel, implement EOS. It's pretty simple to put into place. But one thing that they have is quarterly rocks, and rocks are what are 2 to 3 things that we can do over the course of a quarter that are going to make our business better. And there's the visionary side of that, which is what are those rocks? What are those ideas? And then there's the integrator side of that, which is like, how do we actually make that happen? And it's funny because you, Brad, actually owned a lot of our rocks a year or two ago, where now you barely own any. And we actually use those quarterly initiatives as kind of opportunities for people to step up into mini integrator roles, and they can integrate a solution for maybe a sales platform or a technology idea or whatever those initiatives are for our company. And that could be a salesperson. It could be a project manager. It could be a project coordinator. It doesn't have to be the leaders, and it probably shouldn't be the leaders doing most of those. So I would practice that and allow people within your company to run as operators in bite-sized chunks. It's not going to become their full-time job, but get a little bit of that off your plate as the founder, as the CEO, as the owner, whatever that is. Number 2 is, I would say, if you do have a leadership team, if you are a little bit bigger, just be clear on that relationship. Be clear on, hey, here's how I'm going to run as a visionary. Here's how you need to run as an integrator. And here's how we're going to overlap. And it's not just, don't use that as an excuse to be like, I'm the visionary, I'm the ideas guy, but also be clear about what the expectations are. Can I add a third real quick?
You can. No other
If
guest can, but you can.
If you do have that relationship, carve out time. And I think, Brad, you and I naturally do this, and we can actually do it probably pretty quickly on the phone because we've known each other for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But you really need to set aside that time. That was one thing that when I was in consulting, we saw a lot of, and a lot of these leadership teams would go and do 3 days offsite. They'd go to Mexico or Portland or wherever and do these like intensive all day, couple day meetings where they would both connect as leaders and then work on the business and then connect as human beings as well. And I think you don't have to go, away to do that necessarily, but to create that space. And one thing that we would do, we'd call it admire and need more. And you would literally be forced to say, hey, I admire this about you, Brad. I admire how you do all these things. And I'd say, but hey, I also need more in this sense, and I need more here or there. And to create that like really intentional space to both edify and to build into each other, but then also level set and set those expectations is invaluable.
Really good stuff, man. You're a smart guy.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm thankful for you as a friend and a partner, and I'm thankful to have you right shoulder to shoulder building this empire with me, buddy.
That's right. I'm excited,
right.
man. Appreciate you.
All right. Take care.
All right, we'll see ya.